I'm Tamara Henry.
And I'm Mark Istook. Welcome to Santa Monica Update.
Santa Monica Update, your source for local news in Santa Monica.
At Chrysalis, their mission is to help the homeless survive, stabilize, and become economically self-sufficient, change lives through jobs. Joining us today is the president and CEO of Chrysalis, Adlai Wertman. Adlai, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks, Tom.
Thank you for coming on our show. So first of all, give us a little background about Chrysalis and what is it and what do you guys do?
Sure. Chrysalis is the only nonprofit organization in LA devoted solely to helping homeless and economically disadvantaged people change their lives by helping them get and keep a job. So we run all sorts of programs that help people who have been out of work typically for 10 to 25 years, often on the streets for much of that time, sometimes in jail or in rehab. And we help them by teaching them the skills that they need to get a job. We give them all the tools they need to get a job, everything from classes on how to interview to actually giving people bus tokens to get to an interview and a set of clothes to wear. And from that, they do their own job search, and ultimately, 93% of our clients end up successfully getting a job.
93%? That's really good.
And that's with 2,500 clients a year in Santa Monica, downtown, as well as up in Pacoima.
And what's the typical type of job that someone might get through you guys?
The jobs are really often entry-level jobs that you might see. So you probably have run into our clients all over LA, whether they've been parking your cars, whether they've been sweeping up outside, working at the supermarket. I guarantee you I can barely walk into a Coffee Bean or Starbucks in LA without running into one of our clients behind the counter.
So how do you guys go out and find the homeless, or how do they find you, or how do you guys get hooked up together?
Well, you know, in the life of homeless people, they go through a lot of stages. And they get to a stage where they really feel like, and we find it's about 35 to 45 years old, I call it a homeless midlife crisis, where they decide that they really can't be like this anymore. They really want to change their lives. And the only way back into the world is through a job. And really, most of these folks at that point have accessed all sorts of services that have been giving them stuff, giving them clothes, giving them a place to sleep tonight, giving them some food. Now that they want to help themselves, those places all say, well, if you're up to that point, go to Chrysalis. So we get referred, and word on the street is, we've been around for 21 years. People hear about us.
So the homeless people know about you?
Homeless,
word of mouth
really
through
poor
the homeless people. Well, that's
Absolutely.
Interesting that you say that the homelessness kind of reach a point where they realize that they don't want to be homeless anymore, because a lot of people, hey, you know, the homeless, they want to be that way, and they may in the beginning, but then there comes a turning point.
Right, and I really want to point out that I don't want to talk about homelessness as a disease. What homelessness is it's really the symptom of a disease. The disease is extreme poverty. And what happens when you're extremely poor, one of the things that happens is you end up homeless. So what they're suffering from is poverty. And really, we believe that the way to cure poverty is to help people get their own job so that they can make some money on their own and get out of poverty that way.
And then once they get a job, then they establish their credit, then they can qualify to put a down payment on an apartment, and
Absolutely.
just goes from
Within
there.
6 months, they can get off the streets or out of shelters or transitional housing and into their own apartment.
And then speaking of homelessness, you know, like you say, there are a lot of stereotypes, and people think of homelessness as dirty, drug users sleeping in doorways, but that's not the only, there's another face of homelessness. What is the other face?
Well, we call that group the visibly homeless. And those tend to be people who are either highly, severely mentally ill, or really deeply, deeply rooted in a very bad addiction, and usually both at the same time, because they're self-medicating their mental illness. That represents maybe 5 to 10% of the homeless community. So if there are 88,000 homeless people in LA County tonight, and that's the number, then maybe 8,000 of them are those people that you see. But there's another 80,000 people who are out, families with children living in their cars. There are 15,000 people living in their cars tonight, people living in shelters. They're much more hidden. So that visible homeless group can't be the face that you see when you think of homelessness.
Yeah, to think about families and children and living in their cars, that's where you guys come in. So what kind of programs do you have to help?
Well, everybody who comes in the door comes in voluntarily. They meet with an employment specialist who help them build a plan towards getting to employment. And that plan starts with a week's worth of classes. And those classes deal with everything from where do I look for a job, How do I make a phone call? How do I fill out a job application? How do I talk about my past? What are the emotional issues I'm going to face? How am I going to keep that job once I get that job? And then at the end of that, they get access to our services, which means they get to use our phones, our fax machines, our clothes, everything they physically need to go get a job. And then for some of those folks, if they've been out of work for too long, they need a first job, a person who's going to give them their first break. So we hire about 1,000 people a year. We run the largest street maintenance company in LA, and we also run a temp agency, and we will put this year 1,000 people, give them their first job opportunity. They can work for us for 4 to 6 months, and in fact, the city of Santa Monica hires many of our people through this program. And then after 4 to 6 months, they come back and look for a job on their own, except this time with a resume and a reference and some actual work experience.
So have you seen homelessness go down, and is it hard to track the number of homeless people out there?
Unfortunately, homelessness has gone up. As the rich have gotten richer, the poor have unfortunately gotten poorer. And as real estate prices have gone through the roof in LA, it leaves more and more people off. So actually in the last 20 to 30 years, we've seen an extreme increase in homelessness. And just in the last 5 years, the numbers are probably up by 15 to 20,000.
Wow. So are most of those homeless people going to have to go to the Midwest where prices of homes are, and the cost of living is cheaper?
Well, I don't think they can leave. Plus, the problem is that they need to stay in a warm climate, because if they are on the streets, they'll freeze to death at night. So they're going to stick around here. But I think at some period of time, they're going to realize that they're going to cycle through Chrysalis too. Okay. It's not everybody's point at any day, but sooner or later, they're going to be able to go get a job. And as long as we exist, there will be an exit door for them.
Okay, well, thank you for the information. And if you'd like to contact Chrysalis, call the number on your screen. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
On this edition of Santa Monica Update, I'm Mark Lister.
And I'm Tamara Henry. Thanks for watching.